My sister, Penelope, thought that the moment she said, "I do" at the altar, she wasn't just gaining a husband, she was also gaining the deed to a historic estate worth $5.2 million. She had orchestrated everything perfectly, including blocking all my wedding invitations to ensure she was the first bride in the family. But Penelope forgot one tiny detail. My grandmother didn't leave behind a standard will. She left a living trust. And this trust didn't care who threw the bigger party, it only cared about who walked into the trustee's office with a marriage certificate first. Standing on the grand ballroom stage overlooking the windswept lake, Penelope, in her radiant white gown, poised for her big day, rose to her feet and lifted her glass, intoxicated by her own sense of power. "Cheers to me," she announced, her voice echoing off the newly refinished oak floors. The chandelier, imported from Italy at her insistence, cast dramatic shadows across her face as she gestured broadly with her champagne flute. "And Mom and Dad, look at these new floors and the Italian curtains. Aren't they beautiful?" My mother beamed from her seat at the head table, practically glowing with pride. My father nodded enthusiastically, already on his third drink of the evening. Penelope paused for dramatic effect, letting the room settle into anticipatory silence. But here is the best news. Her smile widened into something sharp and predatory. "You all know that old, drooping willow tree by the lake? It looks like it's haunted." The room went silent. Even the catering staff stopped moving. Penelope laughed loudly, the sound harsh and grating against the elegant atmosphere she'd spent $20,000 of her own money creating. "Next week, the logging crew is coming. Boom! The tree will be gone. That spot will become a massive DJ stage looking straight out over the lake. We are saying goodbye to Grandma's gloominess to welcome an era of partying." My parents applauded in agreement. "Great idea, sweetie," my mother chirped. "That tree is too old anyway. It's practically falling apart." My blood rushed to my brain. The sound of clapping hands became muffled, distant, as if I were underwater. That wasn't just a tree. That willow tree was my grandmother's life force, the place where she'd spent every afternoon for 40 years, reading in the dappled shade, watching the seasons change across the lake. But more importantly, she had forgotten who my husband was. She didn't know that she was about to poke the fire ant nest of the legal world: tree law. In Vermont, that is the fastest way to turn a 5-star wedding into a bankruptcy case. And Mark, my quiet, patient Mark, who she'd dismissed as boring, who she'd just instructed to stand in the back because they were out of seats, was a certified arborist. And me? I didn't just sit there. I touched the cool surface of the leather handbag on my lap, knowing exactly what was inside. I had been waiting for this moment. To comprehend why I was so furious, you have to know about Harrington Manor. It is a 12-bedroom estate in Vermont, built in 1920 by my great-grandfather when old money still meant something in New England. The architecture is classic colonial revival: white columns, black shutters, a wraparound porch that overlooks 20 acres of pristine lakefront property. But the highlight isn't the house, no matter how grand. It's the massive weeping willow by the lake, planted by my great-grandfather in 1924, the year my grandmother was born. It was my grandmother's favorite place, where she sat reading every afternoon when she was healthy, a worn paperback in her lap, and a thermos of tea beside her chair. The branches hung so low they kissed the water's surface, creating a natural curtain that made the spot feel like a secret world. At the time, the estate operated as a high-end wedding venue, bringing in about $450,000 in net profit annually. It is a multi-generational legacy, booked solid 18 months in advance. In my family, things were always very clear. I am Jessica, a dry, practical CPA, the one who handles spreadsheets and tax returns, who wears sensible shoes and keeps her hair in a simple ponytail. The boring one. And Penelope is the star, the golden child, who always needs attention to survive. She has 80,000 followers on social media. She calls herself a lifestyle influencer. She hasn't held a real job in 6 years. That difference became cruel when my grandmother fell ill 2 years ago. My world was confined to a room smelling of antiseptic, sleeping on a sofa to monitor the ventilator. For 6 months straight, the only sounds I heard were the steady beep, beep of the heart monitor and the quiet turning of book pages as I read aloud to her the same novels she'd loved, hoping somewhere in her medicated sleep she could still hear my voice. I learned to interpret every fluctuation in the monitors. I knew which nurses were competent and which ones I needed to double-check. I held her hand through every procedure, every crisis, Every small victory when she managed to breathe on her own for a few minutes. And Penelope? On the very night the doctor said Grandma's lungs were failing, she was in Tulum, Mexico, with thumping EDM music in her ears. I called her, desperate, thinking surely this would bring her home. Penelope's voice rang out over the speakerphone, loud and full of blame, competing with the thumping bass through the hotel room door. "Oh, Jess, don't be so dramatic. Being around sick people for too long will stop me from being positive, and I really need positive energy to live stream. You take care of Grandma. Bye." The call ended. Just like that. "No, I love you. No, tell her I'm thinking of her." Just the click of disconnection, and then that heartless long beep after the call, the silence pressing against my ears. That was when I realized, Penelope isn't just thoughtless, she is a parasite. She is still using money from the fund. Grandma set aside for both sisters $10,000 annually for educational and personal development expenses, to finance her influencer lifestyle while I lived on protein bars and hospital cafeteria coffee. And now, standing at this party, hearing her declare she would cut down Grandma's tree to make room for a DJ stage, watching her toast herself with champagne in a room she'd redecorated with money that wasn't hers, I realized I could not tolerate it any longer. I looked down at my handbag. Inside, next to my lipstick and wallet, was a pre-printed piece of paper, an itemized invoice. And next to Mark, I felt his hand squeeze mine once, gently a silent question. I nodded. Let the games begin. This war truly began the day Grandma died. It was a Tuesday in late January, one of those Vermont winter days, where the sky is so white, it hurts to look at. I'd been holding her hand when the monitors finally went flat, when that steady beep became one long, eternal tone that meant she was gone. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was too tired. I just sat there, holding her cooling hand, until the nurses gently told me I needed to leave so they could prepare the body. 3 days later, we gathered in the manor's living room for the reading of the estate documents. My parents sat on the velvet settee, dressed in funeral black but already looking ahead to what they'd inherit. Penelope perched on the arm of the sofa, her phone face down on her lap, the longest I'd seen her go without checking it in years. Attorney Gibson, designated as the independent successor trustee, sat in my grandmother's favorite wingback chair, a leather portfolio open on his lap. He was 70-something, with white hair and the kind of steady, seen-it-all demeanor that comes from 50 years of family law. He cleared his throat. Before we begin, I want to make something very clear. Margaret Harrington was exceptionally specific about her wishes. This document was revised 6 times over the past 3 years to ensure there would be no ambiguity. My mother leaned forward. Of course. We understand she wanted everything to go to the girls. Not exactly, Attorney Gibson said, and the atmosphere in the living room sank like a stone dropping into deep water. He adjusted his reading glasses and began to read every word clear and deliberate. The entire Harrington Manor, including all buildings, land, furnishings, and business operations, has been transferred into a revocable living trust. Beneficiary rights and control of the asset will automatically activate immediately for whichever granddaughter presents a legal certified marriage certificate to the trustee first. The silence was deafening. I'm sorry. What? My father stood up, his face reddening. That's insane. We're her children. We raised these girls. We've maintained this property for... Mr. Harrington, Attorney Gibson interrupted calmly, you have absolutely no right to interfere with the assets. The trust is ironclad. Your mother was very clear that she wanted this property to remain in the family, managed by someone committed to preserving its legacy. She believed marriage indicated a level of maturity and stability necessary for that responsibility. Penelope's mouth had fallen open. For once in her life, she was speechless. Furthermore, Gibson continued, the trust includes a preservation clause. Any significant alterations to the property, including but not limited to removing historical plantings, substantially changing the architecture, or converting the business model, require approval from a 3-person heritage board that I chair. He closed the portfolio and looked at each of us in turn. The mechanism is automatic. The first granddaughter to present a certified marriage certificate takes immediate ownership. No probate. No waiting period. No court involvement necessary. My mother found her voice first. But that's not fair. Jessica and Mark have been together for 5 years. They're practically married already. Penelope hasn't had a relationship last longer than 6 months. I felt my face flush with humiliation. Thanks, Mom. Really helping my case there. Penelope recovered quickly, her influencer smile snapping back into place like a mask. Well, obviously Grandma meant for this to be a motivation for us to settle down. And honestly, she glanced at me, eyes glittering. This is probably exactly what Jess needs, some encouragement to finally commit. Attorney Gibson stood, tucking the portfolio under his arm. Ladies, I strongly encourage you to make decisions based on love and readiness, not real estate, but the terms are clear. The first marriage certificate presented to me activates ownership immediately. He left us sitting there in stunned silence. After that day, everything changed. Penelope came to the manor constantly, live streaming from every room, touching things that weren't hers, narrating to her followers about how she planned to modernize this gorgeous vintage space. She declared she would overhaul the place into an event and wedding venue with a youthful style, replacing the old, outdated look with something Instagram-worthy. She was planning to erase the things my grandmother had painstakingly cared for, the antique furniture, the carefully maintained gardens, the historical integrity that made the manor special in the first place. I watched her streams from my desk at work, my stomach churning with a mix of anger and worry. The comments from her followers were all the same. Yas, Queen. Can't wait to book my wedding there. You're going to make it amazing. Mark and I hadn't joined the wedding race because we had a plan suited to our reality. We'd been saving for October, because Mark loves trees, and I love the autumn foliage in Vermont, the sugar maples turning brilliant orange, the birches going golden, the whole landscape looking like it's on fire with color. We wanted a small ceremony under the willow tree, just family and close friends, nothing extravagant. One evening in February, I came home to our small apartment and collapsed on the couch, still in my work clothes. Mark found me there an hour later, staring at the ceiling. Hey, he said softly, sitting down beside me. You want to talk about it? I told him everything. About Penelope's live streams, about my parents' constant complaints that the trust was unreasonable, about how I felt like I was watching my grandmother's legacy get torn apart before it even officially changed hands. When I finished, Mark was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to me, his eyes flashing with a strange light I'd never seen before, something sharp and calculating. Jess, did you listen carefully to the lawyer? He said marriage certificate. He didn't say host a wedding. He didn't say wear a white dress. I sat up slowly, my brain starting to catch up to what he was suggesting. Mark looked at me very seriously and asked, Do you want to seize this advantage for yourself? For once, take something better for yourself instead of letting Penelope walk all over you? Do you want to go to City Hall on your lunch break tomorrow? My heart started pounding. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. I know. He took my hand, thumb brushing over my knuckles. I know this isn't the wedding we planned. I know you wanted the fall leaves, and your grandmother's favorite season. But Jess, if we don't do this, you know what's going to happen. Penelope will find some guy to marry her within a month. She'll tear down everything your grandmother built. And you'll spend the rest of your life regretting that you didn't act when you had the chance. He was right. I knew he was right. Okay, I whispered. Okay, let's do it. And so, while Penelope was busy live streaming and shopping for the perfect engagement ring to photograph, the very next day, February 14th, Mark and I quietly executed a $5.2 million coup with just a $50 administrative fee. We went to City Hall during my lunch break. The clerk was a tired-looking woman in her 50s who barely looked up from her computer screen. The whole process took 20 minutes. No flowers, no music, no white dress. Just two people who loved each other, signing their names on official documents while fluorescent lights hummed overhead. When the clerk handed us the certified marriage certificate, her expression softened slightly. Congratulations, happy Valentine's Day. Mark kissed me in the hallway outside, gentle and sweet, and I felt something shift in my chest, not just triumph, though that was there, but something deeper, a sense that maybe, just maybe, I'd finally chosen myself first. We tried to announce the news properly. The moment we stepped out of the bureau, still holding our matching copies of the marriage certificate, I pulled out my phone and called my mother. She answered on the third ring. Jessica? This isn't a good time. I'm at the florist with Penelope, looking at centerpieces. Mom, I need to tell you something important. My voice was shaking, though whether from nerves or excitement I couldn't tell. Mark and I got married today. Silence. Then, what? We went to City Hall. We're married. I have the certificate right here, and I'm going to take it to Attorney Gibson tomorrow morning. Stop it, Jessica. My mother's voice went cold, sharp as ice. Stop it right now. Signing administrative papers is not a wedding. That's not how this works. Don't overshadow Penelope's glory with some pathetic courthouse stunt. Mom, it's not a stunt. We're legally... I don't want to hear it. This is exactly the kind of selfish, attention-seeking behavior I'd expect from you right now. Penelope is planning something beautiful, something meaningful. You don't get to ruin that with your jealousy. The line went dead. I stood there on the courthouse steps, phone still pressed to my ear, feeling like I'd been slapped. Mark's arm came around my shoulders, solid and warm. Hey, he said quietly. We knew this might happen. I know. I just thought, maybe she'd be happy for us. Even a little. He pulled me closer. We don't need her approval. We have each other, and we have the law on our side. He was right, but it still hurt. I didn't give up. That weekend, I went to the post office and sent a wedding announcement along with a copy of the marriage registration via certified mail to my parents' house specifically addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Harrington. I made sure to get a tracking number and delivery confirmation. Everything official, everything documented. I also sent a save the date email to my parents and extended family for a small celebration party we were planning for March. Nothing fancy, just cake and champagne at our apartment, a chance to celebrate with people who actually cared about us. No one responded to the email. The certified mail showed as delivered 3 days later, signed for by someone at the residence. Still nothing. Later, I found out why, through my cousin Lucas, who felt guilty enough to spill the truth over drinks. Penelope had been staying at our parents' house that week, helping with wedding planning. She'd intercepted the mailman at the door, signed for the mail herself, seen my name on the return address, and opened it before our parents even saw the envelope. When she saw the marriage certificate, she tore everything up and threw it in the kitchen trash. She told your parents you were sending them spam, Lucas said, looking miserable. And when your mom asked about it, Penelope lied and said she called Attorney Gibson, and he confirmed it was a fake document you forged to cause trouble. They never even knew the truth. As for the email, Penelope had done something even more calculated. She'd logged into the family email account, the shared one my parents still used for important family communications, and set up an automatic filter to delete everything containing the word wedding sent from my address. But she didn't stop there. She wanted to control the narrative completely. Penelope messaged the family group chat that I'd been conveniently excluded from months ago. Hey everyone, just a heads up, Jessica is going through a mental crisis with Mark right now. She's very worried because she can't marry soon, and she's getting depressed about the whole trust situation. For her mental health, please don't ask her about weddings or anything related. She needs space to work through this. Love you all. She protected me by silencing the whole family, making me into a fragile, unstable person who needed to be handled with kid gloves. Meanwhile, she was planning a wedding that cost more than most people's annual salary, using my grandmother's estate as her personal piggy bank for renovations. But I didn't need their recognition. I needed the law. 3 days later, February 17th, I brought the marriage registration to meet Attorney Gibson at his downtown office. His secretary showed me into a wood-paneled room that smelled like old books and leather. Gibson looked up from his desk, saw the document in my hand, and smiled. Jessica, I had a feeling I'd be seeing you. I placed the certificate on his desk. The conditions of the trust have been fully met. He picked it up, examined it carefully, then nodded slowly. Indeed, they have. This is a certified marriage certificate issued by the state of Vermont, properly notarized and filed. Congratulations, Mrs. He checked the document. You kept your maiden name. For professional reasons, I'm a CPA. All my credentials are under Harrington. Smart. He pulled out a different folder from his desk drawer. Jessica, as of this moment, you are the sole legal owner of Harrington Manor. All property, all business assets, all accounts associated with the estate. No need to wait for probate court procedures. The trust was designed to activate immediately upon presentation of this document. The words washed over me like a wave. Sole legal owner. It was real. It was done. Gibson began drafting a formal document on his computer. I'll file this with the county recorder's office today. I'll also send a notice of ownership and preservation order to your parents' address. They're currently listed as property managers in the interim period. They'll need to cease any decisions regarding the property and return all keys and access codes to you within 30 days. 30 days? Standard legal timeline. Though of course, if they're reasonable, the transition can happen much faster. He printed the document, signed it, and slid it across the desk to me. I'll also send copies to the property insurance company, the business bank accounts, and the venue booking service. Everything will be transferred to your control. I signed where he indicated, my hand remarkably steady. One more thing, Gibson said, his expression growing serious. The preservation clause I mentioned at the reading? It's active now. Any significant changes to the property require board approval. If anyone, including your family, attempts to make unauthorized alterations, you have full legal authority to stop them, including seeking damages. I thought about Penelope's announcement at the rehearsal dinner that hadn't happened yet. The logging crew, the willow tree, the DJ stage. What if someone damages the property before I can stop them? Gibson's expression hardened. Then they're liable for restoration costs, diminished property value, and potentially punitive damages. Especially if the damage is to historically significant features. He paused. Vermont has particularly strict laws about heritage trees on protected properties. I assume you're referring to the willow? She wants to cut it down. That tree is over 100 years old, planted by the original owner, and constitutes a heritage landmark. If anyone touches it without proper permits, and your written authorization as owner, they're looking at significant legal consequences. He pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. This is a property law specialist I know. If you need to take protective action, call her. I took the card, slipping it into my wallet next to my new marriage certificate. Immediately after our meeting, Gibson sent the notice of ownership and preservation order via certified mail to my parents' house. But ironically, Penelope was once again the person who signed for it. And once again, she hid it away because she thought it was just troublesome paperwork from a senile old lawyer trying to complicate her wedding plans. I held the ownership in my hand, but they still blindly believed they were the masters, and I let them believe it. At the same time, Penelope was hiding legal documents in her bedroom. She was also busy selecting a groom. She chose Seth, a 28-year-old lifestyle content creator who hung out in the same influencer circles as her. He had 50,000 followers and a smile that looked perfect on camera but never quite reached his eyes. They'd been dating for 3 weeks when she proposed to him. Yes, she proposed to him, during a staged photo shoot on a beach at sunset, with a photographer she'd hired capturing every moment for content. Seth said yes, because marrying Penelope meant access to a $5.2 million estate and a built-in venue for his brand. The wedding was set for the end of March, just 6 weeks away, to allow time for house repairs and maximum content generation. She wanted everything perfect for the live stream. I learned this news through my cousin Lucas, who'd been invited to the engagement party. He called me afterward, sounding apologetic. "Jess, I just thought you should know. Your parents are spending a lot of money to renovate the manor for the wedding. Your mom said something about investing in Penelope's future and making sure the venue looks perfect for all the photos." My stomach dropped. How much money? I don't know exactly, but they've hired contractors. They're redoing the banquet hall, the bridal suite, refinishing the floors. I called my mother one last time, trying to stop the financial hemorrhaging. She answered on the second ring, her voice already defensive. "Jessica, I really don't have time." "Mom, please listen to me. You can't spend money on renovations at the manor. You don't have authorization." "Shut up, Jessica." Her voice rose to a shout. "Just shut up. You are just jealous. This is an investment in Penelope's future. Unlike you, she's actually building something meaningful. She's creating a life." "Mom, legally speaking, I don't want to hear about your legal mumbo-jumbo. You're a bitter, jealous person, and I'm ashamed to call you my daughter right now. Don't contact me again until you can be happy for your sister." Click. I sat there holding the phone, Mark watching me from the kitchen doorway. She hung up on me. I said numbly, "You tried." He came over, took the phone gently from my hand, You warned them, multiple times. They chose to ignore you. Whatever happens next is on them. My conscience was completely clear. I warned them. They chose to silence me. I announced my marriage, but they ignored me. So, let my family increase the asset value for me. This would be the sweetest trap. Throughout more than a month from mid-February to late March, workers came and went constantly. I drove by the manor twice, just to see what they were doing. The place was swarming with contractors, paint crews, electricians, flooring specialists, furniture delivery trucks. According to Lucas, who kept me updated with guilty text messages, my parents spent $32,000 to change the paint color of the banquet hall from grandmother's gentle sage green to a bright, modern white. They decorated the bridal suite with new furniture, a 4-poster bed with gauzy curtains, an antique vanity that cost more than my car. They retiled all the oak floors, bringing them back to a honey gold shine that admittedly looked beautiful. Penelope spent $20,000 of her own money, probably from Grandma's educational fund, to replace the entire chandelier system with modern fixtures imported from Italy. She hired an interior designer to source velvet curtains in a specific shade of blush pink. She had the outdoor lighting upgraded, installed a new sound system in the banquet hall, and commissioned custom signage with her and Seth's names. Regularly, twice a day, my phone buzzed with notifications of her live streams. Penelope was busy choosing a wedding dress she went through 4 before selecting the one, a massive confection that cost $15,000. She documented choosing flowers, white roses and peonies, imported, wedding shoes, custom dyed to match the curtains, and the status of the manor's renovation and decoration. You guys, the transformation is insane, she gushed to her phone camera, panning across the newly refinished banquet hall. This is going to be the wedding venue in Vermont. Like, I'm literally creating a destination location. You're going to want to book your weddings here immediately. The comments poured in. Take my money. This is goals. Can't wait to see the big day. Mark and I watched her streams sometimes, usually while eating dinner at our small kitchen table. He'd shake his head in disbelief. She's spending their retirement fund, he muttered one evening, watching Penelope show off the new chandelier. Your parents are going to be working until they're 80. I know. I picked at my pasta, appetite gone. Part of me wants to stop them, but they won't listen to me. Then don't stop them. Mark's voice was calm, logical. Document everything. Every expense, every modification, every live stream where she talks about her plans. When this is over, you'll need it. So, that's what I did. I created a spreadsheet because I'm a CPA, and spreadsheets are my love language. I tracked every renovation, every purchase, every public statement Penelope made about her plans for the property. I took screenshots of her live streams. I saved her Instagram stories. I built a case without even knowing exactly how I'd use it yet, and everything was completed by the beginning of April. The manor looked spectacular, I had to admit. The kind of venue that appeared in bridal magazines and Pinterest boards. Penelope had created something genuinely beautiful, even if she'd done it with money and property that wasn't hers. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for a Friday night. Mark and I received an invitation not from my parents, but forwarded from Lucas, who'd been invited properly. It was a heavy cardstock affair with gold foil lettering. Join us for an evening of celebration as we prepare to unite 2 souls in matrimony. Are we really going to this? Mark asked, holding the invitation like it might bite him. Oh, we're definitely going. I smiled, thinking about the itemized invoice I'd spent the past week preparing. We wouldn't miss it for the world. We arrived at the party as the sun was setting over the lake, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The banquet hall was lit up like a fairy tale, those expensive Italian chandeliers casting warm light across the refinished floors. The velvet curtains, Penelope's precious blush pink curtains, framed the windows perfectly. Penelope was holding court near the bar, surrounded by her influencer friends, all of them filming each other. She was wearing a white dress, not her wedding dress, but something clearly expensive and designed to photograph well. Her engagement ring caught the light every time she moved her hand, which was often and clearly deliberate. As soon as Mark and I walked in, Penelope spotted us. Her smile faltered for just a second before snapping back into place. She excused herself from her group and practically glided over, pulling me aside while her friends watched curiously. Oh my gosh, Jess, she said, her voice syrupy sweet but her grip on my arm just a little too tight. I'm so glad you could make it. Though I have to say. Her eyes dropped to my left hand, where my simple wedding band caught the light. Why are you wearing a ring that looks like it came from a candy box? Did Mark buy it? Take it off. It's so aesthetically displeasing. It can't count as having a real wedding. The ring had cost Mark $300, all we could afford at the time. It was sterling silver with a small, genuine diamond, nothing flashy or expensive. But it was mine, and he'd chosen it, and I loved it. It's my wedding ring, I said calmly. I happen to like it. Penelope laughed, the sound sharp and mocking. Wedding ring? Please, you signed some papers at City Hall. That's not a wedding, that's just sad desperation. She turned to Mark, who'd been standing quietly beside me. Tell your boyfriend to stand in the back. We are out of seats. The head tables are reserved for the actual family. Mark's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. We'd talked about this possibility. We'd prepared for it. That's fine, I said pleasantly. We'll find somewhere to sit. We ended up at a small table near the back, partially hidden by one of those expensive velvet curtains. From there, we had a perfect view of the whole room, the head table where my parents sat with Penelope and Seth, the elaborate floral arrangements, the carefully curated aesthetic that Penelope had spent tens of thousands of dollars creating. They thought they had won. They thought I was the loser who had to sit in the extra seat, wearing my candy box ring, watching my younger sister triumph. But they didn't know that inside the handbag I was carrying, next to my lipstick and wallet, was a pre-printed piece of paper. An itemized invoice, carefully calculated, meticulously documented, absolutely devastating. I wasn't just sitting there to endure. I was sitting there waiting for the moment to spring a trap worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mark leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. You ready? I looked across the room at Penelope, standing up to make her toast about cutting down the willow tree, about bringing in a logging crew, about destroying my grandmother's legacy for a DJ stage. I reached into my handbag and touched the cool paper of the invoice. I'm ready, I whispered back, and I smiled. The applause was deafening. My parents clapped like Penelope had just announced the cure for cancer, instead of the destruction of a century-old tree. My mother actually wiped tears from her eyes, tears of joy, apparently, at the thought of her youngest daughter's Instagram-perfect wedding venue. A DJ stage, right there by the water. Penelope was saying, her voice sugary sweet with triumph. We'll string up those Edison bulbs everyone loves. Seth's photographer friend can shoot us from the lakeside at sunset. It'll be magical. And that gloomy old tree will finally be gone, my mother added, reaching across the table to squeeze Penelope's hand. Your grandmother would have wanted you to be happy, sweetheart. I felt something crack inside my chest, not my heart that had already developed scar tissue from years of being second best. No, this was different. This was the sound of my patience finally shattering into 1,000 irreparable pieces. The declaration about sending away Grandma's gloominess still echoed in the banquet room, hanging in the air like a death sentence for the willow. That tree had stood by that lake for 100 years. It had been there when my grandmother was a bride herself. It had shaded her through every summer of her long life. And now my sister wanted to turn it into firewood so she could have better lighting for her social media content. Mark squeezed my hand under the table 3 quick pulses. Our signal. But this time, he didn't wait for me to respond. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the polished floor loud enough to cut through Penelope's laughter. You will not touch a single root of that willow tree, Penelope. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The entire table fell silent. Penelope's face cycled through surprise, then amusement, then settled on condescending irritation. She rolled her eyes dramatically. Sit down, Jessica. And your boyfriend, too. The homeowner is speaking. I stood up beside Mark, my napkin falling forgotten to the floor. My voice came out sharp and cold, each word precisely enunciated like I was reading numbers from a balance sheet. That is exactly the problem. The homeowner is speaking, and she is telling you to get the hell out of her house. My father laughed, actually laughed. Jessica, enough with the dramatics. We've all been patient with your little tantrum, but... Mark, I said quietly, not taking my eyes off Penelope's face. Show them. Mark, my gentle, patient, background-dwelling Mark placed his leather briefcase on the table with a decisive thunk that made the wine glasses tremble. He'd been carrying that briefcase all evening, and I knew Penelope had probably assumed it was just part of his trying too hard aesthetic. She had no idea what was inside. He opened his laptop with practiced efficiency and connected it to the venue's projection system. We'd asked the banquet hall staff to set it up earlier, claiming we wanted to show a slideshow of family photos. They'd been happy to oblige. "Please," Mark said, his voice carrying across the room as the projector hummed to life. "Look at the screen." The first document that appeared was the confirmation paper from the trust, official and unmistakable, with the state seal of Vermont clearly visible in the corner. Below it, a certified copy of the property deed, dated 2 years ago, with my name, Jessica Marie Harrington, listed as the legal owner. I watched the color drain from Penelope's face like someone had pulled a plug. It was fascinating, really, from a purely observational standpoint. Her foundation couldn't quite hide the way her skin went from influencer bronze to ash gray in the span of 3 seconds. "What?" she started, but her voice cracked. "That's impossible," my mother said, but she was already reaching for the reading glasses she kept in her purse, squinting at the screen. "Jessica, what is this? Some kind of forgery? Call Attorney Gibson if you don't believe me," I said, pulling out my phone and setting it on the table. "His number's right here. He's the successor trustee. He'll confirm everything you're seeing on that screen." My father was on his feet now, his face turning the particular shade of red that usually preceded one of his lectures about responsibility and family loyalty. "Your grandmother would never—" "Grandma did exactly this," I interrupted. 2 years ago, when she got sick, and you all were too busy to visit, when Penelope was posting beach photos from Tulum instead of coming home. When I was the one sitting with her in the hospital, holding her hand while she made her decisions. Mark stepped forward, and I saw something I'd never seen before in the 2 years we'd been together. He wasn't the quiet, accommodating man who blended into the background at family gatherings. His posture was different, shoulders back, chin up, the bearing of someone who knew exactly what he was talking about and exactly how much power that knowledge gave him. "Penelope," he said, his voice taking on a professional tone that commanded attention. "You should Google the phrase tree law before you call those loggers." She blinked at him, confusion mixing with the anger on her face. "Tree law? What are you even—" "That willow is what we call a specimen tree," Mark continued, pulling a folder from his briefcase. "It's over 100 years old. Planted in 1924. As a certified arborist, yes, Penelope, that's my actual profession, not just a quirky hobby. I've appraised its value at $80,000. The number hung in the air. I saw Seth's eyes widen. He might be an influencer, but he understood money. "But listen carefully," Mark said, and there was steel in his voice now. "Vermont state law stipulates that the act of intentionally cutting down someone else's tree, that's called timber trespass, is subject to treble damages. That means triple compensation." He let that sink in for a moment, his eyes moving from Penelope to my parents and back again. "That means the moment your saw blade touches the bark of that tree, you will owe my wife and me $240,000. He paused, and I saw him do the math visibly on his fingers for emphasis. 80,000 times 3. Add in legal fees and court costs, and the figure will rise to $250,000. Are you sure you want to trade a tree for a massive debt?" "Wife?" my mother said faintly. "What do you mean, wife?" I pulled the certified marriage certificate from my purse. We'd gotten it framed, actually, in a simple silver frame that had cost more than the $50 administrative fee for the license itself. I set it on the table in front of her. "We got married on Valentine's Day," I said, "at City Hall. Just the two of us and a clerk named Margaret who gave us mints afterward. It was perfect." My mother's hand went to her chest like she was having heart palpitations. My father's face went from red to purple, but it was Penelope I was watching. Penelope, who was doing the math, whose influencer brain was calculating engagement rates and calculating debt and coming up short. "You can't do this," she said, but her voice had lost its confidence. "This is my wedding. You're being selfish and—" "Selfish?" The word came out as a laugh, sharp and bitter. "You want to talk about selfishness, Penelope? Let's talk about selfishness. Number 1. My parents started in on me then. A chorus of accusations and disappointment that I'd heard variations of my entire life. I was being cruel. I was being vindictive. I was ruining Penelope's special day out of jealousy. I was evil. I was heartless. Everything was wrong with this family. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. As a CPA, I've learned that numbers speak louder than emotions. Facts trump feelings every single time. And technically, the 30-day vacate notice Gibson sent had expired days ago. They were officially trespassing on my property. I reached into my handbag and pulled out the pre-printed document I'd prepared 3 days ago, the moment I'd confirmed through Lucas that Penelope was planning to cut down the tree. An itemized invoice, printed on my professional letterhead, with every line item carefully calculated and legally defensible. I threw it on the table in front of Penelope. It landed with a satisfying slap against the polished wood. "You want the wedding to continue?" I said, my voice calm and professional, the voice I used with difficult clients who thought they could cheat on their taxes. "Fine. Pay up." I picked up the invoice and read it aloud, making sure everyone in the room could hear every single line item. Market rate venue rental fee for a 12-bedroom historic estate, $15,000. Emergency service fee for booking under 24 hours notice, $35,000. Tree risk insurance fee to protect specimen vegetation, $50,000. Emotional distress compensation fee, $30,000. I looked up from the paper and met Penelope's eyes. The total comes to $130,000. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the servers who'd been hovering near the kitchen doors had frozen in place. My mother found her voice first. "You are crazy." She was standing now, her chair knocked backward. "How dare you charge your sister money? For her wedding? In her own family home?" I leaned in close to her and Penelope, close enough that my father and Seth couldn't quite hear, close enough to see the panic starting to bloom in Penelope's eyes. "I know Penelope tore up the certified mail I sent to Mom and Dad," I whispered. My mother's face went pale. She knew. Of course she knew. "Mom, did you know that intentionally destroying someone else's USPS mail is mail fraud? That's a federal crime. I don't think you want me to file a police report right before the wedding photos are taken." Penelope's breath caught. She shrank back, her defiance evaporating instantly. She knew I had the leverage to ruin her reputation forever, not just her wedding. "Penelope," I said, straightening up and speaking loud enough for the whole table to hear again, returning to my professional tone. "This is a simple business transaction. You want a luxury venue? You pay the venue fee." "Jessica," my father tried, his voice taking on that placating tone he used when he was trying to smooth things over without actually addressing the problem. "Let's all calm down. We can discuss finances later after." "No, Dad. We discuss it now." I cut him off calmly. "The venue policy is strict. Payment in full prior to the event. But since I'm family, I'll waive the emotional distress fee and the emergency booking surcharge." I pulled out my phone and opened the calculator app, making a show of punching in numbers. "I'm offering a settlement of $25,000. It covers the base rental and a portion of the risk insurance." I looked at my parents. "As for the $52,000 you and Penelope spent renovating my house, $32,000 from you, $20,000 from her, consider it a non-refundable deposit. A housewarming gift that I graciously accept." "You can't expect us to carry that much cash," my father sputtered, his face reddening. "I'm a CPA, Dad. I don't want cash." "I want a paper trail," I said, pulling a blank check request form and a pen from my purse. "Write a personal check. Or make a wire transfer. I don't care. But the funds need to be secured tonight." I set the pen down on top of the form with a decisive click. "If payment isn't received in the next 10 minutes, I said, letting my eyes move across each face at the table, "then the venue is officially closed. Mark will lock the gates, and I will cancel the security detail for tomorrow. Penelope can explain to her followers why her wedding was canceled due to a venue dispute." The silence stretched. Seconds felt like hours. I could hear my own heartbeat, could feel Mark's steady presence beside me like an anchor. They realized I wasn't threatening them with violence. I was threatening them with something far worse for people like them: humiliation. And then my mother started to cry. That night ended not with the sound of party music, but with weeping, blame, and the sound of a pen scratching against a checkbook. My mother cried through the entire process. My father's hand shook as he wrote, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. Penelope sat frozen in her chair, mascara streaking down her face in ugly black rivers, while Seth rubbed her back and looked at the invoice with wide, terrified eyes. The check was for exactly $25,000, made out to Jessica Harrington, with venue fee written in the memo line. I held it up to the light, checking the date and signature, ensuring it was valid, before folding it carefully and placing it in my wallet. The wedding will proceed tomorrow at 2 o'clock as planned, I said, my voice businesslike and detached. Mark and I will not be attending. We have other commitments. Other commitments? My mother said through her tears. Jessica, you can't just, this is your sister's wedding. And this is my honeymoon funding, I replied, already gathering my things. Mark, are you ready? Mark? He closed his briefcase with a decisive snap. Ready. We walked out of that banquet hall together, leaving behind a room full of shocked faces and broken illusions. The night air was cool against my face, carrying the scent of spring flowers and fresh possibilities. Mark opened the car door for me, he always did, even after I told him it wasn't necessary, and I slid into the passenger seat, feeling lighter than I had in years. You were amazing in there, he said as he started the engine. We were amazing, I corrected. That whole tree law speech? That was perfect. You actually scared them. He grinned, that rare full smile that transformed his whole face. I've been practicing. I wanted to make sure I got the legal terminology exactly right. Certified arborist, I said, reaching over to squeeze his hand. My hero. The wedding took place the next day in an atmosphere as gloomy as a funeral. I know because Lucas sent me photos secretly, because he'd been warned not to communicate with me. The images showed Penelope in her designer dress, surrounded by flowers that cost more than most people's monthly rent, smiling for the camera with dead eyes. My parents stood stiff and formal in the background, their expressions carefully neutral for the photographs that would end up on social media. The willow tree stood untouched in every photo, its branches swaying gently in the breeze like it was laughing at them all. Mark and I were 30,000 feet above the Atlantic when Penelope was saying her vows. We'd used that $25,000 to book first-class tickets to Italy, Rome first, then Florence, then a week in a villa in Tuscany that looked like something out of a painting. The flight attendant brought us champagne in actual glass flutes, and Mark toasted to the coolest negotiation he'd ever witnessed. Do you think they'll ever forgive us? He asked, settling back into his seat as the plane leveled off. I thought about it, really thought about it, while I watched the clouds drift by below us. Probably not, I said finally, but I don't think I need them to. Does that make me a terrible person? It makes you free, he said simply. And he was right. Covers the base rental and a portion of the risk insurance. I looked at my parents. As for the $52,000 you and Penelope spent renovating my house, $32,000 from you, $20,000 from her, consider it a non-refundable deposit. A housewarming gift that I graciously accept. You can't expect us to carry that much cash, my father sputtered, his face reddening. I'm a CPA, Dad. I don't want cash. I want a paper trail, I said, pulling a blank check request form and a pen from my purse. Write a personal check. Or make a wire transfer. I don't care. But the funds need to be secured tonight. I set the pen down on top of the form with a decisive click. If payment isn't received in the next 10 minutes, I said, letting my eyes move across each face at the table, then the venue is officially closed. Mark will lock the gates, and I will cancel the security detail for tomorrow. Penelope can explain to her followers why her wedding was canceled due to a venue dispute. The silence stretched. Seconds felt like hours. I could hear my own heartbeat, could feel Mark's steady presence beside me like an anchor. They realized I wasn't threatening them with violence. I was threatening them with something far worse for people like them, humiliation. And then my mother started to cry. That night ended not with the sound of party music, but with weeping, blame, and the sound of a pen scratching against a checkbook. My mother cried through the entire process. My father's hand shook as he wrote, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. Penelope sat frozen in her chair, mascara streaking down her face in ugly black rivers, while Seth rubbed her back and looked at the invoice with wide, terrified eyes. The check was for exactly $25,000, made out to Jessica Harrington, with venue fee written in the memo line. I held it up to the light, checking the date and signature, ensuring it was valid, before folding it carefully and placing it in my wallet. "The wedding will proceed tomorrow at 2 o'clock as planned," I said, my voice businesslike and detached. "Mark and I will not be attending. We have other commitments." "Other commitments?" my mother said through her tears. "Jessica, you can't just, this is your sister's wedding." "And this is my honeymoon funding," I replied, already gathering my things. "Mark, are you ready?" "Mark?" He closed his briefcase with a decisive snap. "Ready." We walked out of that banquet hall together, leaving behind a room full of shocked faces and broken illusions. The night air was cool against my face, carrying the scent of spring flowers and fresh possibilities. Mark opened the car door for me, he always did, even after I told him it wasn't necessary, and I slid into the passenger seat, feeling lighter than I had in years. "You were amazing in there," he said as he started the engine. "We were amazing," I corrected. "That whole tree law speech? That was perfect. You actually scared them." He grinned, that rare full smile that transformed his whole face. "I've been practicing. I wanted to make sure I got the legal terminology exactly right." "Certified arborist," I said, reaching over to squeeze his hand. "My hero." The wedding took place the next day in an atmosphere as gloomy as a funeral. I know because Lucas sent me photos secretly, because he'd been warned not to communicate with me. The images showed Penelope in her designer dress, surrounded by flowers that cost more than most people's monthly rent, smiling for the camera with dead eyes. My parents stood stiff and formal in the background, their expressions carefully neutral for the photographs that would end up on social media. The willow tree stood untouched in every photo, its branches swaying gently in the breeze like it was laughing at them all. Mark and I were 30,000 feet above the Atlantic when Penelope was saying her vows. We'd used that $25,000 to book first-class tickets to Italy, Rome first, then Florence, then a week in a villa in Tuscany that looked like something out of a painting. The flight attendant brought us champagne in actual glass flutes, and Mark toasted to the coolest negotiation he'd ever witnessed. "Do you think they'll ever forgive us?" he asked, settling back into his seat as the plane leveled off. I thought about it, really thought about it, while I watched the clouds drift by below us. "Probably not," I said finally, "but I don't think I need them to. Does that make me a terrible person?" "It makes you free," he said simply. And he was right. For the first time in my